Mr. President, in a few moments, we will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court. It is time. Justice Gorsuch and Justice Sotomayor were confirmed 66 days after they were nominated. Today marks the 90th day since President Trump nominated Judge Kavanaugh. So this is in line with the time frame for previous justices. What is different, though, about this nomination is the manifest unfairness in the way it was conducted and in the tone and behavior of some senators, as well as the special interest groups that support them. This institution used to be known as the world's greatest deliberative body, but you wouldn't know it now on this nomination. The senator from Maine said yesterday that we have hit rock bottom when it comes to the judicial confirmation process, and sadly, I agree. This, despite the heroic efforts of Senator Grassley, who along with his staff have been magnificent as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. What precipitated this embarrassing period for the Senate was the intentional and deliberate withholding of Dr. Ford's allegations from the Judiciary Committee and Judge Kavanaugh until the 11th hour, and then publicly ambushing everyone else concerned. It has been a process that, in words that echo from another dark period for the Senate, the McCarthy hearings, it has been cruel, reckless, and indecent, both to Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh. Still, despite these hijinks and the weaponization of the confirmation process, we've been over backwards to try to accommodate Dr. Ford once she said she wanted to come before the committee. We know she requested confidentiality as her allegations were investigated. She did not consent to nor authorize the release of her letter. She didn't want a public spectacle. Judiciary Committee staff even offered to fly to California on a bipartisan basis and interview her confidentially. But this offer was not even shared with her by her partisan lawyers. In other words, she said she never understood that offer was on the table. She thought the only way she could tell her story is in the midst of the three-ring circus that hearing became. But after Dr. Ford, the damage to her was done. When her identity became known, we invited Dr. Ford to testify. She came and did so, and I respect and admire her courage. It could not have been easy. We listened respectfully to her story. We took it very seriously. We treated her the same way we would want our wives or daughters to be treated. And we tried to learn the facts, cold, hard facts, as elicited by an expert in dealing with sexual assault cases. We all know that after the hearing, what that attorney told us, because it became public. She said as a prosecutor, she would never recommend charges under these circumstances because, in her view, there was no corroboration of Dr. Ford's account. And there were inconsistencies in her story regarding the place, the time, and the people involved in relevant events. In other words, this was not a case of he said, she said. It was a case of she said, they said, including everyone Dr. Ford claimed was a witness. Not only no corroboration, the alleged witnesses refuted her claim, including her best friend, Leland Kaiser, who said she never met Brett Kavanaugh. Then, even after all of that, even after hiding information that should have been shared confidentially with the Judiciary Committee, even after the outrageous conduct by some senators at the first hearing, intentionally violating committee rules and seeking delay after delay, even after that, we took another additional step to address any lingering concerns. The FBI launched a supplemental background investigation. There are two words to note about this investigation: supplemental and independent. Supplemental because Judge Kavanaugh has had 6 other previous background investigations. This was the 7th. Independent because now opponents are saying that, well, the investigation was merely checking a box. It wasn't thorough or comprehensive enough. But that simply doesn't jibe with the facts. The FBI was told to investigate current credible allegations, and they had a free rein to contact anyone they wanted. And they contacted many of the people that our Democratic colleagues, Dr. Ford and Ms. Ramirez themselves, said were eyewitnesses or persons with relevant knowledge. I'm talking about folks like Mark Judge and others. So opponents are trying to have it both ways, demand an investigation, but then badmouth it when it doesn't reveal what they hoped it would. Politics should not have and didn't dictate the terms of this supplemental background investigation. The FBI knows how to do its work, and now opponents of this nomination should accept its findings. But, Mr. President, this has never been a search for the truth by senators who had already announced their opposition to this nomination, some of them even before Judge Kavanaugh was named. Rather, it has become a matter of delay, defeat, and destroy. I do believe the senator from Arizona and others who joined in his request did us a great favor by insisting on the FBI supplemental background investigation. The American people can feel better that leads have been followed and exhausted for those still interested in a search for the facts. The American people now know that we took it upon ourselves to take one last step to dispel the doubts about Judge Kavanaugh's fitness to serve on the highest court in the land, and that step is now complete. So to Senators Flake, Collins, and others who requested that supplemental background investigation, I say thank you. Both Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh have been badly treated throughout this process. Dr. Ford has been treated less as a real person than as a poker chip in a card game. Her wishes for confidentiality were ignored, her letter was leaked, and her story was weaponized in a political ambush. This whole charade, sad charade, has likewise been unfair to Judge Kavanaugh. These allegations could and should have been investigated by the committee under normal procedures and timelines designed to protect both the accuser and the accused. Instead, we got mob rule. Some blame Judge Kavanaugh for his righteous indignation and impassioned defense at a second hearing. But as somebody who served for 13 years on the bench myself, I know the difference between deciding a case as a judge, for which Judge Kavanaugh's temperament has been universally praised, and defending oneself against character assassination and personal destruction. Judge Kavanaugh understands the difference, too, and I have no doubt whatsoever about his judicial temperament. But imagine what this has been like for Judge Kavanaugh's parents, for his wife, for his children, for the friends and colleagues who know the real Brett Kavanaugh. Shocking or embarrassing doesn't begin to describe it. I am disappointed, more than I can say, at those who have unleashed these unjustified attacks on the judge and his family, and disappointed in their lack of any empathy or remorse for what they have put them through. No empathy, no remorse, none. For some of them, it seems that the end justifies the means. Chew good people up, spit them out, no problem, all in a day's work. After the dust settles on this dark period, we need to think about the damage all of this has done to the Senate as an institution and to the judicial confirmation process that we most certainly will embark upon again in the near future. It is my hope, it is my prayer that the politics of personal destruction simply because you don't agree with the nominee's judicial philosophy or the president that nominated him or her will stop. The low road is not available to us anymore because there is no lower road than the one we have been on. It's my hope that some of the tactics we've seen intimidation, bullying, violating the rules, taunting members, trying to coerce them through bribes, carpet bombing them with TV ads, sending them coat hangers in the mail, screaming at them in the hallway. These cannot become the new normal. And so we cannot reward those tactics. I guarantee that if these tactics had succeeded in blocking Judge Kavanaugh, they would become the new normal. And that ought to chasten all of us. I hope we've learned a painful lesson these last few weeks and will strive to do better. I pledge my good faith and best efforts to do so, to try to help. We should recall the not-so-distant past when Ruth Ginsburg, the former general counsel of the American Civil Liberties Union, was confirmed by a vote of 96-3, when Justice Scalia was confirmed by a vote of 98-0, and John Paul Stevens confirmed by a vote of 98-0 as well. In a rational, logical world, Judge Kavanaugh should have similarly lopsided numbers. That is, if people were willing to get past their tribalism and look at our nominee's record, look at the more than 300 opinions he's authored, the decisions he's authored that the Supreme Court has unanimously embraced. If they would look at his scholarship, talk to his former colleagues and law clerks. If opponents were willing to do that honestly and thoroughly, they would have found a brilliant individual who cuts no corners in his legal analysis, who lets the chips fall where they may, and respects the very important but limited role of the judiciary in our constitutional system. In my view, a vote against Judge Kavanaugh is an endorsement of the way the opponents have mishandled and abused the confirmation process, as well as the shameful intimidation tactics they've employed. A no vote neglects all that the man is and all that he has accomplished based on unproven accusations about adolescent conduct. It justifies the manipulation and mistreatment of people like Dr. Ford for political gain. It would establish a dangerous precedent and legitimize mob rule, including the presumption of guilt in violation of everything our Constitution.
Has restored order to the galleries. The Senator for Texas.
Mr. President, it would establish a dangerous precedent.
Suspend. As a reminder to our guests in the galleries, expressions of approval or disapproval are not permitted in the Senate galleries. The Senator for Texas.
Mr. President, it would establish a dangerous precedent and legitimize mob rule, including the presumption of guilt in violation of everything our Constitution and fundamental notions of fairness stand for. Some say we are a nation divided, but I'm not so pessimistic as some. I actually hope we can all learn. We must learn, I believe, from this cruel, reckless, and indecent episode. But a no vote will not unite us. It will help reward despicable tactics and set a new ugly precedent. It will only encourage the spurning of tradition and the flouting of agreed-upon rules, norms, and process. We should not ignore, we cannot acquiesce in or condone what has happened here. We should send a message loud and clear that the United States Senate will not be intimidated. I will cast my vote in favor of Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court of the United States, and I hope my colleagues will join me.